We're going to go ahead and begin. If everybody's got a seat. All right, is that on? We're going to go ahead and start. My name is Dave Greenspan, the head of the Community and Economic Development Department for Lorain County. I want to thank you all for coming. I know it's a busy day for you. The weather hopefully will hold out a little bit so you can get back on some of your exterior projects. This was put together, this forum, through our staff. We have Brandon Timke here and Garvin, who has too many last names for me to pronounce in one, there you go, in one phrase here. Commissioner Gallagher has been very insistent that we start receiving more bids on countywide projects. And so that's kind of the impetus for this meeting. And what we did was we did a countywide, actually a broader outreach. We sent out over 1,000 emails. The media's been good about covering this and providing us with exposure. So we want to ultimately attract more of you to do business with the county. So in order for that to happen, we invited Kleinfelder, who's managing some of our programs, to help explain the process of doing business with the county. And then as a result of this, in conversation with the Ohio Department of Development on lead abatement programs, they've agreed to participate. You're going to hear from them as well as to what it takes to be eligible and qualified to do business as it relates to lead abatement. So with that, Brandon, is there anything else I'm missing? Now, I want to thank my team who's been very instrumental in putting this event on. We have Brandon, Matt, and Garvin are here. Michael's here as well. So I want to thank them for their participation in putting this on. And with that, you didn't come to hear me. I want to turn it over to Brandy with Kleinfelder, and she'll take it from here.
Right.
Thanks.
Hello, everybody. Some of you may know me, and some of you may not, but thank you for coming today. We are Kleinfelder. We administer the program for the county. We are private CHIP consultants through the community development. The CHIP program is administered, the administering agency, I apologize, is Ohio Department of Development. Matt is here with the state. Funding sources usually come from home CDBG, and we do have Lead Safe Ohio funds as well as CHIP funds that we're trying to spend currently. There's two different programs that we currently administer through the CHIP, private rehab and home repair. James will go more into that when he talks about his specs that he writes for those specific projects. I'm not sure where the clicker is. Sorry. If everybody got a handout, it has all of our information on here. Contact information if you do want to become a contractor. We also have contractor applications in the back for you with my direct information that you can send those in to me. You don't have to send it through the mail. You can also email everything into the office. We are in great need of contractors. This program is very specific, and there's strict rules we have to follow, and you have to have very strict licenses that Matt and James will talk more about here in a little bit. Sorry, keep going. Contractors wanted on the third page, I believe. Funding is available to income qualified homeowners. They must be owner-occupied residential properties. We're really trying to spend this money. We're going to be applying for the new program for Lorain County coming up for the 2025 CHIP application, and that is due in December. If they are funded, which is a competitive program, it'll be $1.6 million for Lorain County. Like I just said, the contractor application's in the back. You must have workers' compensation, liability insurance, your RRP through EPA. If it is a lead abatement project, you are required to have a lead abatement contractor license. We will go more into that later as well. And there's a sample invitation bid. So what happens when an income qualified residential property is ready to go out to bid? James here, he does the inspections, he writes up the specs, you get very specific specifications when you come to the walkthrough. You're invited through email, you'll get an invitation to bid. It's very detailed, dates and times, and exactly what we're doing at that property. So if you do choose to come or not, it's pretty detailed, so you'll know if you do want to show up or not. The next is your invitation to bid packet. I'll just give it to James so he can talk to you about the walkthroughs and what he does with his specs.
Steve. My name is James Good. I'm the rehab specialist for the CHIP program. Some contractors that actually work in the CHIP program are here, so contractors that maybe don't work in it, feel free to hunt them down and talk to them about the CHIP. It's a pretty cool program. We do some awesome projects. It's an excellent service that the contractors provide. One particular project we did a rehab, and it was a Vietnam War veteran, and the guy's roof was caving in. You know, it was leaking inside his house. He did not have running water. There was lead throughout the entire property. We redid his whole home, and it ended up being awesome. But anyway, those are the type of projects that you guys and gals do. It's pretty awesome. But my process, I'm the face that you guys will see out in the field. And it starts with you guys getting a bid invitation from us. She sends out emails and all that stuff. And I schedule all that stuff. You guys don't have to do any of that scheduling. And you meet me on site. I give you the bid packet. It's got all the instructions on there, including my specifications. We go over everything. If you have any questions, I'm right there with you guys and gals. And the bid date is also set with the instructions on how to submit that bid packet and the date and time and place and all that stuff. You're more than welcome to attend the bid openings. And then after the bid opening, Lorain County goes through a resolution process where they approve all these projects. And then after that, I once again schedule the contract signing, and myself, the homeowners, and you guys and gals will meet me and sign the contract. And from that point on, it's your guys' project. The contract is between you guys and the homeowner. And then as you complete the project or need inspections like a clearance or something like that, you'd reach out to me, and then we'd close the project out. In a nutshell, that's it. Well, yeah, payment process, there's a rule of the 30-day payment rule. I'm sure a lot of you guys are used to that stuff. But you reach out to me when it's complete. Sorry about the scratchiness. But you reach out to me when it's complete. I get it as soon as I can and inspect it, and then submit payment to her, and then she submits payment to the community. And then it takes 30 days or so. 30 days is the general rule. Change orders, once again, you can reach out to me. And it's usually change orders as long as they're obviously legit change orders. Like on a roof, you would just take pictures and say, hey, replace all this sheeting, and then, you don't have to wait for me to get to the site, you just continue. But anyway, normal process for the most part, change orders, just reach out to me, and we take care of that stuff as well. RRS is just the code book. It's the rules for me. So when I'm doing my inspections or whatever and typing up my specifications, yeah, I do have to follow that code book. So, all the annoying stuff that you guys have to deal with, it's the RRS's fault. But that's it. It's just the rules that I have to follow. That's all that is. Cool.
So the contractor turns in a registration, and there's missing pieces and parts to it. Would you guys call that contractor and help them and walk them through that process?
On the bid that year?
No, on the contractor registration, the applicant and all that.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, I
okay.
did contact them and let them know what's missing, and then once they're approved, they will start getting bid invitations from me.
I mean, are you guys willing to make the phone calls? to the
We do
contractor?
make phone calls and we follow up with emails to them.
Okay, and then the next thing is, so I know that this is different. Does the contractor have to be registered within that city?
They do not.
So who handles that? Do you guys handle that, or? Because I know like, when any contractor works in the city, they have to be registered.
It depends on what they're doing and what city they're working in. For this CHIP program, it's not required.
Okay.
Well, certain cities do get whatever.
Yes, certain cities do.
Yeah, they'll reach
I
out.
believe The city of Elyria has their specific rules that they have to follow, I think, yeah, I think. Right, because I knew that's what he was gonna say, yeah, 'cause I just talked to you guys about
You can't
this.
pull permit without being registered with the city.
Right, There's some other communities that we work in that it's not required.
If you're in like a village or a township.
Right, right.
I didn't hear that.
It depends if you're in a village or township, that is usually not a requirement. But for the CHIP program, it is not a requirement to be registered with the city. That is on the city's website. If they are required, I'm not quite sure. I think Kathy may know.
Yeah, if they're doing work like replacement of windows and doors and all that, yes, they have to be registered with, and for the city of Elyria, they do work in the city of Elyria. And I believe Lorain is the same way.
It is Oberlin and everywhere, pretty much everywhere in Lorain County, unless you get
Okay.
like Eaton Township or something like that.
Okay.
Most of our programs, by the way, do not touch the city of Elyria or the city of Lorain.
That is excluded.
Right. But the Let's Safe Ohio program does.
Right.
Okay, and probably a lot of you are here for that. So, yes, we'll then have to register with those cities.
For the CHIP program, we administer in the county of Lorain that we cannot touch properties in the city of Lorain or the city of Elyria unless it's Lead Safe Ohio dollars. The city of Elyria and Lorain have their entitlements, so they have their own funding. So if you're looking to do more work in the city limits, you can, I think, reach out to Kathy. I'm not sure if the city of Lorain is here.
Yes, they are.
Okay, perfect. Talk to them about what kind of funding they have.
And I know like certain cities, like, so I know like your team will inspect the homes and does the city inspectors also have to inspect the work too as well when going through the process?
Yeah, if the city requires that, then yeah, they'll do their own thing. My inspection really isn't a code inspection, it's more of a quality control inspection. Like I'll go through each letter of my specs, you know, and make sure each letter is done. I don't know every single code in every single city in the state. But anyway, each area will have their certain things that they have to do, and the contractors are required for pulling any permits or certifications. And we'll try to help them with that or give them as much information as possible. But a lot of times we learn that as we go as well, each city that we work in. But so sometimes it's county that does it, sometimes it's city. Sometimes the communities don't even have a building department or an inspections that they do, so it's just my inspection. It just kind of depends on the community.
So could like potentially like the contractors put in that money, like certain permits, like electrical, like, you know, 250 or a new home is
Yeah,
different,
right.
all that's different, so they can place that into the bid then?
Yes, right. Yep, yes,
Absolutely,
ma'am.
yeah. They work that into their bid. Any more questions? All right.
Just give her that mic.
All right, you can give it to Matt. You got Matt?
Yeah, I think I have that. Okay. My name is Matthew Spees. I'm with the Ohio Department of Development, the Office of Community Enhancements there. Lead Safe Ohio CHIP, there are programs that are administered by our office. So I just want to start by saying thank you to Lorain County staff for inviting us to be a part of this. I love the turnout today. Thanks to Kleinfelder for helping out with this. And I'm going to talk about certification requirements in the programs that we have. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about our programs in general. So a lot of you are familiar with what RRP is. Since April of 2010, contractors working in pre-78 construction are required to have an RRP certificate. Does that sound familiar to everybody? So anybody working in our CHIP program and our Lead Safe Ohio programs has to be RRP certified. The good news is the threshold to get the RRP certification is pretty low, so it does require a day of training, and then every 5 years you have to go back for a 4-hour refresher. So that we know that the day isn't free, right? But the class is now. Our office is funding RRP training across the state. If we find, excuse me, if we find a need in Lorain County to host a class here, we're happy to do it. So if you're bringing on 4 or 5 new guys, All we need to do is find about 4 or 5 other guys, and we can get a trainer to come right here somewhere in the county, and they'll have that RRP training, and your workers would be certified at the end of the day. Another part of the RRP requirement is that your firm has to be certified as well. So that is a matter of registering with the EPA and writing them a check. I think it's $300 these days. Okay, yeah. So that's part of being RRP certified. So any work that's done in any of the programs we fund, all contractors who are disturbing paint and surfaces will be required to have those certifications. But technically, it's the law of the land. If you're doing work in precipitated construction, it's actually required of all contractors everywhere. So it might be a way to bring yourself into conformance with that federal regulation anyway. So let's see. Okay, so please, if you have a need for training, let Brandy know. I'm going to introduce you to a couple of other gentlemen. You can let them know, and we will arrange to have one of the 5 training partners we have just come here and provide the training if we can get enough folks registered for that class. And we'll do it as many times as it needs to happen. The program is well funded right now for training, so they want a minimum of 10 or 12 people, but if we can get that many put together, we'll come host a class. They're also regularly scheduled. You know, this is a pretty populous area, so you'd be able to find an RRP class pretty easily within an hour and a half regularly, but we can help expedite all of that. So I'm going to take a moment and talk about Lead Safe Ohio in general. Lead Safe Ohio is a program that the governor and the legislature gave us a couple of years ago to administer, and it is, we took $95 million and we're putting it into renovations in homes with the intent of reducing lead hazard in precipitated construction. So in Lorain County, I think we ended up with like $1.5, $1.6 million. 1.8, okay, yeah. So pretty good chunk of change came to Lorain. There's a fair amount of that's already been committed, already underway, but there's a pretty good chunk left, and that's where we have a great need for contractors. The trick with our Lead Safe Ohio program is that we had a pretty short window to get that executed. So we really need to get the last bunch of projects qualified and moving forward pretty quickly. So that stuff will actually be happening this year. And with that program, you can be an RRP contractor and perform lead safe renovation at the properties. That's one option. There's another option. We'll talk about abatement a little bit more in just a second, but RRP contractors are welcome to work in that program. And so there's a lot of work available there. And again, this is Lorain County's meeting, and I'm very appreciative they invited us. Every surrounding county has this program as well. So there are opportunities that exist outside of Lorain County. You can talk to these guys that I'm going to introduce you to momentarily, or reach out to me and we can give you some contact information for the program in neighboring counties. So I'm going to take a quick moment and introduce Keith, if you'll stand up, and John, please. These gentlemen are what we call lead liaisons in the state of Ohio. When we launched this program, we understood that lead sometimes looks scary as a contractor. It's confusing, there's a lot of regulation. Their job is to help contractors who are thinking about becoming lead abatement contractors get through that process and know how to become a lead abatement contractor. And once you become a lead abatement contractor, we'll talk a little bit about that process. Once you become a contractor, they're there to provide you support as well. So they'll introduce you to folks like Lorain County and Kleinfelder who run these programs, and the folks that actually have the projects, the funds that they need to get committed. Part of John and Keith's job is to make sure that contractors are connected with those programs so that we can get through this work in that crazy time frame that we have to get it done. So we'll get a copy of the sign-in sheet, and we'll make sure that you have contact information for both John and Keith after today, so that if you have more questions, and I know they've already been mixing a little bit, and they'll mix a little bit more. Make sure you shake their hand and get familiar with them, because they're going to be a great source of support for you if you're going to be an RRP contractor, but also if you're interested in becoming a lead abatement contractor. So lead abatement is an entirely kind of separate enterprise in the state. So when we have pre-78 construction, often we do what's called a risk assessment in properties, and that tells us where lead is on that property. And when we know that there are hazards present, we have to have a lead abatement contracting firm with lead abatement contractors perform that work, okay? So the barrier, and I'm not sure, Randy, are we next slide?
No, this is like,
Okay, so we're good there.
Yep.
So for a lead abatement contractor, it's a 5-day training that's required. Again, these trainings are now subsidized by our office, so there's no cost for the training itself. Doesn't cover your time. We'll talk about that in just a moment, but there's no cost to actually have the class. And there also, if we have enough contractors in Lorain County that are interested in going through that, we'll bring the trainer to you guys. We do have a partner that's active, often goes to Toledo. They're actually out of the Streetsboro area, so they're not far away at all, but they will come here if there is sufficient demand. Workers have to have 3 days of training, and that's usually held concurrently with the 5 days. So you can send workers for the first 3 days of the week, and then the designated contractor will stay for the last 2 days of the week of that training. And so there's a distinction between those two licensures. We need a lead abatement contractor, a record for every project where abatement's going on. But the work can be performed by your workers who have that 3 days of training. Keith and John can give you more details about how all of that works moving forward. There's also great need for lead abatement in Lorain County and surrounding counties. So a lot of construction around is pre-78. Actually, a lot is early 1900s. And 1900s was kind of the time that lead was used a lot. And I'm sure you've all heard it, but lead is very harmful to children, especially to their developing brains. And so it's a priority for the legislature and for the governor to get those hazards addressed in homes so that we can mitigate some of those negative effects. Got a question?
Yeah, do you have to do the RRP first before you do this one?
So they're entirely separate. RRP and abatement contracting are kind of separate disciplines. Everybody needs to be RRP certified, but there is such a thing as a lead abatement contractor who doesn't have RRP certification. It's kind of goofy that that's the case, but you can be a full lead abatement contractor and not have RRP, but RRP is the easy one to get. So I would say just plan on getting your RRP certification, and then if you're interested in exploring opportunities in lead, and I mentioned that there are other communities, there are statewide programs. There is such a need for abatement. There are programs that have wait lists, hundreds of homes long, many of them in Lorain County, that they can't get to them because we don't have contractors to perform the work. So there are multiple funding sources for these programs, and so there are funds available, but there aren't contractors to actually get out there and perform the work. That's kind of the bottleneck in the lead world. And so that, I hope, is why some of you are here. The opportunity exists across the state, obviously. We're not far from a major metropolitan area where they have a huge need that it's just impossible to even imagine they'll ever fill it. So lots and lots of opportunities, but plenty of need right here in Lorain County. And so as a part of the Lead Safe Ohio program, we launched what we call our Capital Assistance Program. So if you're a contractor considering becoming a lead abatement contractor, there is support available to you from the state, okay? And that takes the form of a grant. So if you want to become a lead abatement contractor and you fulfill the terms of the program, the state will fund up to $100,000 in expenses related to becoming a lead abatement contractor. So when you go and you take 5 workers and you put them through the 3-day worker class, their wages have to be paid. They're not making you money. So one of the things we thought about when we thought about capital assistance is we can help pay for those wages. If you need specialized equipment, if you need a dump trailer or a vehicle to help facilitate performing lead abatement in the state can get you reimbursed through that program, capital assistance it's called. And I'll share with everybody that is on the sign-in sheet, hopefully we've got good contact information, we'll share who you would contact to connect with that program. Now we're going to ask you to very carefully, just a second ma'am, we're going to ask you to very carefully document your expenses and we're going to verify that they're eligible and actually do support lead abatement activities. But we have a number of contractors, a large number of contractors in the state who've already gotten support through the program, and it has been very helpful to them. I'm not going to put anybody on the spot, but I know of at least one in this room who received it, and it's been very helpful to them in expanding their capacity and ability to perform lead abatement in the state. So, all right, ma'am, you had a question?
When you mentioned equipment, like a lead testing done all the time.
So the need that we're most interested in filling here is the need for contractors themselves. So we have excluded analyzers from eligible expenses. So think things like tools that you use on the job, pickup trucks, that kind of thing.
Do you know what that program is?
With analyzers, I think there are some opportunities out there. Let's catch up. Yeah, why don't you catch up with Brandy and I, we can talk after the meeting. Yep.
I know firsthand experience, grants are sometimes, difficult to write, or they're just a lot of work. Is there somebody that helps out with the grants for this capital assistance program, or is it just like?
So the state has contracted with a firm called Finance Fund, and Finance Fund walks you through the process, and it is not like one of our normal grant funds where we need the applicant to be an eligible community. So they are aware that they're not working with grants professionals. The application process is relatively easy, right? But there is a lot of money there, so they're very careful about making sure that you meet all of the requirements. But they'll guide you through the process.
What's the name of the company?
The company is called Finance Fund. And to find out more information, I'm going to give you, I don't know the URL for Lead Safe Ohio. Google Lead Safe Ohio, and the first result will be our office's landing page for the Lead Safe Ohio program. And then you can look and you'll see capital assistance listed on that page. You can click on that link. That will get you in touch with Finance Fund, and then and you'll reach out to them and they'll walk you through the process.
How much does that cost? Is there a cost associated with that?
There's no cost. There's no cost. So you'll complete the application process. Now I will say the program's been active for almost a year now, and we are probably approaching the final few contractors that we're going to be able to assist. Okay, so there's a chance that if you call 2 weeks from now, they'll say, I'm sorry, we've exhausted all the funds. But as of today, there are still funds available, and you can reach out and go through that process. So, any other questions? Yes, sir.
So for some of the funding, different funding going on each project, is there going to be prevailing wage attached to any certain things?
We have no prevailing wage
Not for
requirements
these
in the program.
programs.
In the programs that Brandy administers here in Lorain County, there is not that requirement. So any program that is administered by our office, and we have a presence in, I think, 84 counties, we do not require a prevailing wage to be paid. There are parts of the state where it is required locally. The city of Toledo is an example. They have a version of prevailing wage that they require when they're using federal funds, but there is no requirement for our office that prevailing wage be paid. Any other questions? Okay, so we will send you John and Keith's contact information. Their job is to get you into the lead abatement business, but they're also They're also supposed to help with RRP. So if you're interested in bidding in some of the projects that Brandy's going to make available here, Brandy and James are going to make available here in the near future, and you have questions about what it all looks like, John and Keith can walk you through the whole process and help come out on the first job and kind of help go through everything that needs to happen on those jobs, talk to you about containment, those kinds of things. We're really invested in seeing that you as contractors are successful, right? So there is a clearance required in these programs. When you're done, you have to meet a certain level. We'll check for lead dust, and you have to make sure that lead is below a certain level. It's not our interest for you to fail those clearances. It's in our interest for you to pass them, and that way we know that the occupants of the homes are protected and they're not being exposed to the hazard. So it's an amazing opportunity, something that really has been demonstrated to have a positive impact on children's lives. It's had an impact on crime rates. Lead is really insidious, really terrible for people, and this is a great way to kind of get in front of some of that problem. So. All right, any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope you find this extremely informative, and as you know, and as I mentioned earlier, Commissioner Gallagher had a strong interest in making sure that we have more bidders bid on projects. Commissioners Moore and Riddell also have a significant interest in making sure, number one, that we have competitive bidding, but more importantly, the necessary work that is being talked about here is done. We have a significant need in the community, whether it's CHIP recipients or Lead Safe Ohio recipients. To give you an example, we put out a press release, Brandon, March 15th or so, with the March 31st deadline to get those interested in the program, and we received over 400 responses. And they're working through the process now, and I believe we're somewhere around 15 or 16 are ready to go, and another 15 or 16 are in the application process. That in itself are 31 projects in the county that we feel pretty comfortable. At least the 15 need to happen immediately. But the problem that Department of Development is running into, and the reason we're here trying to encourage more to participate in the Lead Safe Ohio program and be qualified contractors, is there is work immediately that needs to be done. And we have a very short window. The deadline's February 28th of next year to get the work done. So if you're interested, time is of the essence. And so I want to just let you know kind of the next steps here. We have all of your email information through either registration or through the initial contact. We will send out, looking at Brandon, because Brandon handles all the departmental communications, we'll send out this PowerPoint presentation, which has all the contact information for both Kleinfelder and the Department of Development. So you'll have that with you. You also have it here in paper form. We're also going to send it to the nearly 1,000 other recipients of the emails that aren't here today to encourage their continued participation in the program. You're also going to receive from Brandon or from the department a survey. We want to understand the challenges you've had in bidding on county projects in a more broad scope, because we want to address and minimize those challenges. So going forward, your opportunity to do business with the county is as seamless and streamlined and as efficient as possible. If, as an example, you go through the process and Kleinfelder is going to manage this, and they determine that there are some applicants that need assistance, further assistance, that don't currently qualify, we're going to do what we can to help you meet those qualification requirements. Because we want you to engage with the county. We want you to be qualified and certified to do the work necessary to support the residents of the county. So this isn't, you submit an application, there's some deficiencies in meeting the requirements, and you're done. We don't want that to happen. We want you to engage. So we're going to do what we can within our department to ensure that you meet the requirements to do the job, to work for the residents of Lorain County. And more broadly, after you service Lorain, you can help our neighboring counties. That'd be great as well. With that, I have nothing else.
Can I have a question?
Yes, sir.
At the last commissioners meeting, there was 5 resolutions. They all went to the same contractor. And one of the things I noticed that seemed difficult to me, these projects are maybe $30,000 to $50,000, but in one resolution, it required the contractor to be able to do excavation work, plumbing, and electrical repair, in addition to carpentry and everything else. How is it that one contractor can meet all those requirements and also be registered with every city as a plumber, as an electrician, as an excavator? It seems a little difficult, especially if you're only making $30,000 on a job, unfortunately.
So I'm looking as Garvin walked up, and then he turned his back when you finished your question. I said, all right, Greenspan, you're on your own. You respond.
Yes, well, it's the magic word, subcontractors, right? You do have projects that, would need a licensed electrician or plumber. All of those are specialty fields, so a general contractor can sub out those parts of the contract, right? So that's really how it's accomplished.
Do those contractors, electricians, plumbers, do they have to have lead abatement training or RRP training?
Well, if their work touches lead,
Okay.
they would have to, obviously.
So,
General.
But so if it were still a pre-78 house, they would have to have RRP though?
For this specific project, the general contractor must be properly licensed, right?
So, but does that also fall down to the subcontractor?
If the subcontractor is disturbing, as Garvin said, if they're
Yeah.
disturbing paint, they will need to have RRP certification. The abatement rules only apply if you're going to abate lead in the property. That's a very specialized situation. So you'll know when it's an abatement project because it'll be very clear in the specifications. As a rule, we don't expect that all excavation contractors, as an example, are RRP certified because they rarely disturb pavement surfaces. If there's an exception, then we would look for that certificate.
You will know if it's an abatement project at the time of the bid invitation. James will do a risk assessment if he finds lead, and if it's an abatement project, you will be notified specifically that's an abatement project. Or if we did not find lead, there's a lot of times we don't find lead on 378 homes, so you will know right away.
If it's a lead safe Ohio program, does it be assumed that it's always a lead abatement?
We are presuming lead on all lead safe Ohio projects.
And for that, then require the lead abatement
No,
contractor?
just EPA already.
So
what's
let
the
me
abatement for?
Let me clarify that a little
Yeah.
bit. So one of the design elements of the program was abatement is sort of the ultimate fix to the lead issue. The RRP, lead safe renovation approach, which doesn't require the abatement license, but allows you to work lead safe on projects, is very protective. It's not the ultimate solution. It's very protective, but it eliminates a lot of those hazards before kids become poisoned. The problem with lead abatement is it generally doesn't get initiated until we find a poisoned child. Most of the time, except in our CHIP program, we look for it prior to a kid being sick. But most of the time, we know about lead hazards because the child has become sick. With Lead Safe Ohio, we've said, let's get there before the kid is sick, and let's get those lead-painted components out of the house so the kid never gets sick. So that only requires the RRP licensure, the one-day training.
As far as for how the job is rolled out, I've done jobs in Columbus, I've done jobs in Cincinnati. I went in, I talked to you on the phone. How you doing, Brandon? And go to a ton of meetings, been on a lot of stuff. Every municipality, every Cincinnati, everybody is kind of different in how they do their stuff. But for a contractor, when you go, you've been on all these jobs, and then you don't really get any feedback, or you get a feedback, and it's like, oh, this bid didn't get accepted, or we're waiting on this. But the deadline is February 28th. How can you help contractors get through these processes better? Because I'm bidding everywhere, but then I don't get all the work until March, and then there's a deadline until February. How is that fair to the contractor, and how can we work through these?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and the best answer I can give you right now is we're going to do our best to make sure that we are able to do what we can. The original deadline for Lead Safe Ohio, as an example, was January 31st. And if we didn't use the money, it was spent this past year. When we found that out, we immediately asked for an extension, which ODOD was working on anyhow. The extension now is February 28th. So you're right, we're in a very short window right now. I'm not going to answer for ODOD, but I was a state representative and I know how important this issue is, lead, because I worked on several bills on this. It wouldn't surprise me, I'm going out on a limb, and this is me speaking, if lead funding continues beyond February of next year, because the state does recognize this is a significant issue. But I can only speak to what's before us today. Right now, we've got February 28th window. I know Matt's looking at me like, please don't make commitments. I'm not making commitments, but I can tell you the tone of the legislature is to fund this, continue to fund lead and lead abatement issues, because it is recognized as a significant issue in the state. Related to this, we're going to do our best to make sure we meet the deadlines that are currently before us.
Okay. Will people start moving towards like master contracts or anything like that? Like I know some cities, states, like Cincinnati cities that do master contracts. Is that something that may be entertained or whatever, just because?
Are you hearing
I
me?
mean, we're sitting here and we're saying, hey, we need contractors, but for any of these people here, even myself, you go buy the insurance, you front all this cost, and if you're a small business, you're holding all that for 5, 6, 7 months until you can actually get the job.
So I will say this, they are permitted in the program. That's something that the administrator will work through with the grantee. So Kleinfelder and Lorain County will work together if that's something that it looks like it makes sense. And because of the timeline, that would be something that would have to happen fairly soon. But we're always, everybody has a state support. If it makes sense, we'll provide our support to allow them to make that change.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I saw Jessica raise her hand, but she was scratching her head. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Dan. I'm a contractor based in Cuyahoga Falls. I was hoping you could speak to what would be a desired timeline. There are other programs that they have like a 7-day window where if a family is relocated, then we have essentially 5 days to get the work done. What is the typical desired timeline? A lot of the challenges that we face on our end is, a guy calls off sick, somebody's not doing okay, they have a family member, so there's a lot of challenges that puts a lot of pressure on the contractor to finish in that time period. And then even some programs will require, hey, we have to pay for their extended housing. So that's a lot of pressure for a contractor. Just wondering what the timeline you're looking for to complete the jobs.
Yeah, I do all that stuff. I'm only worried about really the quality of the project. I do not put any pressure on timeline. Some of the contractors that work in the program can tell you that. We're required to put a completion date in all of our contracts. But, if you need more time, then you'll get more time.
Great, thank you.
So that would just be keeping you updated on the status.
Right, yeah.
Communication, for sure.
Yeah.
Anything else? Yes, sir.
Just curious, we were working on a project in Ashtabula. The lady went through checking for lead and all this. They have a century home and they have grandkids and all this. The lead program out there said, okay, they did a lead assessment. They went out there, did the specs. It was like 30 to 50 squares of siding. And they gave them the spec and said, okay, we're going to get this out to bid. So we were the only ones that showed up. And we were ready to put the bid together. And then they got a call from, and they said they ran out of money. So I'm disturbed over this because that house is absolutely, it's a century home. It's built in 1911 in Conneaut. So they said the state.
Well, we're not going to put anything out to bid if we're out of money, even close to it. So for our program, that's not going to happen, hopefully. And you have to attend the walkthroughs. If you're getting a bid invitation, you must attend the contractor walkthrough and sign in. Otherwise, you cannot bid. For a chip.
What about subcontractors? Like, if you
They're
get-
all invited. I invite everybody.
What I mean is if you go to a project and you say, oh, there's electrical and plumbing work, you didn't know that, and the subcontractor said you're going to use did not attend that walkthrough.
That's okay, as long as the general's there too.
Yes.
Sometimes the general, they'll have an excellent relationship with their sub, and the sub will show up on their behalf. Still be
And to be clear, you know exactly what's required
Yes.
when you receive the invitation. The entire scope is presented to you before you ever, so if it's a job that doesn't appeal to you for whatever reason, you just skip that one and go to the next one.
Our bid invitations are very specific about what each project entails.
Mr. Speaks, would you know if they have any more money? Is this?
It's John, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we met in, yeah, okay. Let's talk after the meeting.
Aside from workers' comp, do you have any insurance requirements?
Just liability insurance, just your liability insurance.
So I know it was a concern, like a lot of contractors just gave in previous surveys about homeowners and complaining and getting into contractors and all that. Is there going to be somebody to help out, like basically communicate with homeowners?
That's my job and Jane's job. We try our
Okay.
best to really, help with any, there's also like complaint they can file, but we do try to work it out together before we go to the state for help.
Yeah, in some ways, this office can kind of, in a way that you're not protected on a private job.
Yes.
There is a party there that is interested in making sure, one, that all of the homeowners' needs are met and the requirements of the program are fulfilled, but also making sure that a contractor, once they have completely successfully finished a project, actually gets paid. It's in their interest because they want you to come back for the next project. So they're going to work to resolve those kinds of conflicts. And on occasion, we get called to step in. And again, our objective is, one, to make sure that the owner has received what they need to have received through the program, but also to make sure that the contractor is compensated for the work that's performed. It's a protection you really don't have in private work.
Yes, sir.
You almost had that. I've had experience over the years with Springfield job. It takes 6 months to get a plan. So you mentioned 30 days. So how close do you to the state?
All right, so let me kind of address that. I'm going to channel my inner Amy photo over here. So I know, and I'll recognize the county has had challenges in the past in being responsive and paying vendors in general. I will say in the last 6 months, there's been significant progress between the treasurer, the auditor, and the commissioners to pay vendors on a more timely fashion. I can't dodge the question any other way to say that we are, and I'm not trying to, but we are working to streamline the process of paying our vendors in a more timely fashion. So that's as best I can address the issue.
So it almost sounds like you said, I don't know.
No, actually what I'm not saying, what I'm saying is that understand how the payment process works. The treasurer is the treasury, the auditor makes the payments, and all the other offices authorize payment, and it goes through a process. We are working through automation and better lines of communication to streamline that process, to make the payment process much more efficient. For example, prior to this, Jessica's going to kill me for this, but we have not been able to, prior to, say, the end of last year, even entertain paying vendors electronically. Everything goes through a check, right, which is a process. And I go through some internal steps that we have to go through, even to pick up the check, mail the check, it adds time. We are now working in the treasurer's office is much more receptive to starting now to pay vendors electronically. We're not there yet, but we're getting there. That's an example of us trying to streamline the process. We're working with the auditor's office to authorize the payment, so the payment process itself is more efficient. And internally, at least within the commissioner's office, we're going to a new system which will allow us to transmit back and forth and get approvals electronically instead of passing paper. Correct?
Yes.
Correct. So we are working right now to make things much more efficient. And I would say it's taken, in the last 6 months, we've made significant progress towards moving to a faster and more efficient payment process. So I'm not avoiding it. I'm giving you the best information I have, that we're trying to make it better. We recognize, and when you answer the response to the survey you're going to receive here, feel free, if you're check that as one of the issues you've had, is slow payment. Because we need to hear that. You're going to get the survey, and there'll be an other box. Right, Brandon? There's another box. Yes, Mike was saying yes. Any issues you've had or anything you've run into, we need to know, because we need to, ultimately our objective and your objective is to serve the residents of Lorain County in a much more efficient manner. We can only do that with the response we get from the constituency and from you doing work And if it's critical of us, we need to know, because otherwise we may not know to address it. So be honest in the responses to the survey. If you want to say your moderator did a very good job today, put that in there. That'd be very appreciated. But with that, any other questions? I'm not trying to limit questions, I want to encourage questions, but I also know you guys have jobs to do out in the field today.
I just want to touch base on one thing. If you are working on a rehab in the CHIP program, depending, we have a payment schedule, so you're not waiting at the very end of that project that may take 60 days or more. James will go out, inspect, maybe you finish the roof, we'll pay you for the roof. We kind of do a payment schedule on bigger projects. So you're not waiting to the very end to be paid in full on rehabs.
Can I make a statement? Can I make a comment?
Yeah. Well, let me do this. Let's go to John.
I just can verify that they've been very good with me. And so, the 30 days, Mr. Chair, has gone the second mile to help us out.
John's comment was we've been very good at payment. I just want
We certainly try our best, and thank you, John.
Sir.
Don't have a question, but John and I, all of our services will be free to you guys. When we come to your job site to set up your team and help you out, it doesn't cost you a penny. Any question you guys got, call us, we'll help you. And we've both been lead contractors, we've done the work, just didn't get the license, we're both risk assessors, and we do have our RRPs. Anything we do, there's no charge to you guys at all. And that's Department of Development is paying our wages and everything. So just keep that in mind if you got any questions or anything. That's all I have to say, sorry.
Anybody else?
Jim, I have a quick question. What about asbestos?
So the CHIP program doesn't specifically have a standing on asbestos. So they're not required, it's not required to be abated through the CHIP program. So it's one of those things, I'm sure that if we see, it is rare. Usually asbestos is intact. We usually see it in tile and in siding. It can be addressed through the program, but it's not a requirement for our program. Lead has been the focus for a number of years.
Anything else? All right, well, I'll close it out then. Once again, thank you all for coming. This is very important. Please respond to the survey. Please, if you're interested, take advantage of this opportunity. I want to thank my staff again, and Garvin and Michael, and Brandon is here. Also, I want to thank Todd Sharkey, who's been instrumental in helping us with the technology, and especially Kleinfelder and the Ohio Department of Development for coming and helping us share with you the opportunities that are before you to help the residents of Lorain County and also to help you and your businesses as well. So with that, I'll go ahead and close, and thank you all for coming.